This is from Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same. I love that. I don't even know how you do that, but Mike and I just both had some nice poops before this recording, and then he put a poop emoticon over his face on our Zoom meeting.
This isn't going in the
really
cold
good
open.
about that.
I don't care what you think.
It's not going in? Oh. The coldest of open. Great.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to From Justin to Kane. This is Mike, and with me, as always, is Bob.
Hi, everyone. You know what, though? I will say a cold open talking about shit relates to one of the films we're talking about, because one of the films we're doing this week is a complete, utter piece of shit.
Says you.
I'm talking about Super Mario Bros. From 1993.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that fucking movie. I was upset the whole time.
You were?
Yeah, I was like angry that it exists.
Oh, well.
Are you a devout fan?
I saw it in the theater.
Oh,
as a child, and
yes.
As a Super Mario super fan.
Right.
But I did not like it as a fan. So,
right. Or how about now? You've kind of aged with the film. How do you feel about it now?
I think it's still bad, but it's interesting to watch still.
Yeah.
I liked watching movies where there's clearly bad choices being made, and I like just seeing how that results.
Right.
So.
It's like a thought experiment, or like some sort of experiment where they're like, if we spend this amount of money and we do everything that's really just the most misguided choice we can make, and let's see what the outcome is. It is fascinating.
Yeah.
That's not how I watched it, though. Not with that lens.
Okay. Last night I watched 1941, the Steven Spielberg war movie.
Ugh, that movie's rough, too.
You've seen it?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I love the concept. Like, he, drives this airplane, and then he has to go to the gas station and stuff. I was like, that's fun. But it's also a terrible film.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty bad. But it's interesting just seeing the world's greatest living filmmaker, TM, kind of, just whiff it hard. But it's also so well done. It's just like an exquisitely made film.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
terrible screenplay.
Complete nonsense. Yeah. And Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale wrote it. Yeah. We should definitely do that movie so you can watch it again.
Well, I saw it on your letterbox and I was like, Misa thinks we're doing 1941 next week. Yeah, it's a rough go. It's a rough go for sure.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, the movies at hand, this week's movies are Super Mario Brothers from 1993 as the bad movie of our binary, and then the good movie is The Last Black Man in San Francisco from 2019.
Yep. And this was your first time watching Last Black Man in San Francisco, right? Yeah,
it was good. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what it was about, but I had heard good things, so I watched it and I was like, yeah, that's an A24 movie, all right. So
definitely on brand for A24.
100%, yeah.
How is it that A24 can somehow, because I just watched The Green Knight in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this just screams A24. You know what I mean? But a different production company makes these films. A24 doesn't write them, but I feel like they somehow have this hold on the industry where they get these really unique, extremely loud indie films. Every movie they make has crazy music.
Yeah.
Green Knight has crazy music. Last Black Man in San Francisco has crazy music. Hereditary, obviously. Bunch of fucking movies. Blaring crazy music seems to be A24's MO.
Well, I guess they kind of figured out the aesthetic that they want, and then they just kind of buy movies like that.
Right. Interesting. I mean, I'm a fan for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I would never buy merch, but I'm a fan.
You're not one of those people who has that directed by David Lowery on your shirt? You know, people who have those, they're like, I'm a film fan. It's like, I'm going to have these directors most people haven't heard of and are confused when they look at your shirt.
Yeah, they're like, who the fuck is David Lowery?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or an A24 dog leash for my dog. I would never do that. That's like a ridiculous piece of merch.
Yeah, it's like forcing your dog to be a cinephile, which your dog doesn't necessarily want to do.
No, or your dog just wants to watch Golden Girls and nothing else. And that's okay. You can't fault your dog for not being a cinephile.
Yeah, and in this case, Golden Girls is golden, like, retriever girls.
Nice, Mike. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk more about A24, but we should talk about these two movies. Okay, let's talk about Super Mario Brothers.
Sure. So Super Mario Brothers, I don't know if you know, but it's based on a video game.
What's a video game?
Okay. Well, I've got a lot of work to do today.
You just get up and leave.
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers video game came out in the 80s in Japan and America. Mario originally was featured in Donkey Kong.
Is that where it started?
I believe so. I believe his first appearance is in Donkey Kong as a character named Jumpman. And then...
Really?
Yeah. Because they just needed a character that made sense on scaffolding.
So they made like that's why he's vague like, plumber.
Yeah, and then they put a mustache on him because then it just kind of gave definition to his face because they only had so many pixel colors to work with. So Mario is the way he is out of like just sheer practicality.
I love that.
And his name was Jumpman, and then they named him Mario after their in Washington, the Nintendo of America. They had a landlord named Mario Spagali or something like that. I can't remember his name, but
you mean like the Nintendo office in the States had a landlord named Mario?
Yeah, and they named it after him. They just needed kind of like a middle class kind of blue collar name, and so it's like Mario. So all of that, yeah, and then the extreme Italian like stereotype that he is now has just kind of been warped from like that. Anyway,
there's something inspiring about the most like banal history of creating a character to turning into this like monolithic IP.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
Like Mario is like the IP, I feel like.
For Nintendo, for sure. Like Mario Kart 8 or whatever the most recent one is has sold like 50 million or something insane like over the last 10 years. And
Mario surely is what keeps Nintendo afloat.
Oh yeah. I mean
like that more than Donkey Kong or whatever the hell else they make, Animal Crossing or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Animal Crossing was like the big thing of 2020 because people
for like 6 months, right?
Yeah, but it sold a lot, I guess. 20 or 30 million copies in like a year. Anyway, we're getting off topic. I could talk about video games. Insane. We should just have a second podcast that's about video games.
Honestly, and I'm getting into video games slowly but surely, so that's not a bad idea.
No.
Anyways, okay.
Just do From Justin to Game more often, I guess.
Or a game corner.
Just have a game corner.
Yeah.
A couple of gamers. Just drinking our Code
Fago.
Red. Oh, yeah, right.
Come on now.
I was going to say Mountain Dew Code Red because that's the drink of gamers, but I forgot that we have to drink the official drink of From Justin to Kane, Fago.
Yeah. Yeah, they pay us now to say that, so we have to. I wish they paid us.
And it's not.
Anyways.
We're doing it because they pay us, not because we worship at the Dark Carnival, but we do that as well.
But that's a separate thing, unrelated.
Unrelated, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Super Mario Brothers movie came out in 1993. It was directed by a husband and wife team.
That's right.
Named Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel.
How come they didn't take each other's names, I wonder? Did you look that up, Mike?
I don't know. They both have silly names, so...
Rocky?
Yeah, Rocky Jankel.
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be weird. But, so that's... They directed it as a duo. Supposedly, they're both perfectionists, and they didn't communicate well on set, so everybody had a hellish time making this film also because of the directors.
Wow. Do you know, like, I don't know why I'm just grilling you now. You probably don't have the answers to these questions, but do you know if they have a huge filmography? Like, have they made a lot of films, or is this like the one time they made a movie as a couple?
They've directed a few movies.
Oh, really? Like before or after?
No, Super Mario Brothers, I guess, was their first one, and they're from Britain.
Interesting.
And so they pioneered and created. They created Max Headroom. You know Max Headroom?
Yes, from the It's like in a music video or something, right? That animated guy.
Yeah, it's from the 80s. It's like Matt Frewer plays like a guy in a TV or a computer or something like that.
Yeah.
And they directed DOA with Meg Ryan in it and Dennis Quaid.
Dead on Arrival.
And a movie called Tell It to the Bees, which came out 2 years ago and seems to be some like historical lesbian movie.
Cool.
Yeah, just like that genre of old-timey and gay.
I love it. That's a great combination.
Mm-hmm. So the Super Mario Brothers movie is about the Mario Brothers, the titular Mario Brothers, the titular brothers Mario. And as Bob learned from watching this film, they're named the Mario Brothers because their last name is Mario.
Yeah, what's up? So Mario and Luigi Mario, that scene viscerally disturbed me because it makes no sense.
Well, it's like a stupid joke, really, that is now canon, I guess.
Because they, if I'm not mistaken, this film's intention was to subvert a lot of the Mario tropes, right? Mm-hmm. There's like a lot of subversion they were trying to do, and I guess that's one example.
Yeah. So the Mario Brothers are played by Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, and they are trying to rescue Princess Daisy, played by Samantha Mathis, who isn't really in movies anymore.
What else has she been in? Do you know anything offhand? Because I did not recognize
her. She used to be like a big deal in like the early 90s.
Oh, really?
So she was in like Little Women. And
with Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
And, oh, yes.
Oh, I guess she still makes the odd movie, it looks like. But she was in, Atlas Shrugged Part 2. Yikes. Okay.
What's that?
Based on the Ayn Rand book.
Oh, yes. Right.
But she was famously in a thing called Love and what's that other movie? Oh, Pump Up the Volume. Yeah, Pump Up the Volume.
Right.
So like around 90, 93. And I guess she was the main character in Fern Gully also.
Okay, cool.
So she had like a big early 90s stretch, and then she kind of just disappeared for a couple of years and then is just playing bit parts now.
That's good. It's a living.
I mean, it is a living, yes. And she is also just like a pelican cement mixer also, in the Flintstones. So she just looks at the camera and says it's a living. She's just a pelican, and then they just mix cement in her mouth, and then she looks at the camera and is like, it's all living.
I was really wondering where you're going with that. That's great. That was a really nice little detour we just went on.
So
beautiful.
In the Mario Brothers movie, also Dennis Hopper plays President Koopa, who is a Trump-esque figure, ?
Yeah, I would say this was a really sort of fascinating prediction of the world we live in now.
Yes, although you weren't alive in the 80s.
Way to out me.
Yes. So you weren't like aware of just like Trump was around. He's always been like around.
I know. I just watched a film actually, 2 Weeks Notice with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
And Hugh Grant, and he's in it briefly. And I was like, oh yeah, he was an asshole a long time ago. Yeah. People like kind of hated him.
He was like a somewhat handsome kind of just guy who was around in the 80s, and people were just like, he represented what he's always represented, just being like a complete utter like fail son who just is so rich, and like nothing has changed about him, but he was kind of like a joke and a celebrity.
In 1993 too, as well.
Yeah,
just been 72 since 1993.
Literally nothing has changed. Anyway, the movie was inspired by the video games, but then also they were trying to make it more in line with kind of popular movies at the time, like Ghostbusters and Blade Runner. And I guess also like a little bit of Wizard of Oz, which I kind of see in that they go from one world to another, but that's about as far as it goes in my mind. Also, like, people complain about how dark and like gritty this movie is, but it's kind of always been the thing. Just like in the movies, they'll be like Batman from 1989 is, more gritty and dark. Ninja Turtles from 1990 was gritty and dark. X-Men, when it came out in the late 90s, they just like, what if the X-Men didn't wear colors? They just wore black.
Well, I think I need to say this. This film came out at the apex of dinosploitation.
I know it was. Yeah, it was a big part of the
Theodore
dinosploitation
Rex, Jurassic Park, and there's a lot of dinosaurs in this film.
Yeah.
And the grittiness does. I had this conversation with a mutual friend of ours, and he's like, I feel like the trend was dark and gritty. Like even a children's movie had to be dark and gritty.
Yeah.
And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a great example.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything was just dystopian for a long time in the 90s as well.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of coming out of that. I mean, maybe we just kind of go in and out of that. Like Spider-Man wasn't really dark and gritty in the early 2000s, so maybe it was a 90s thing, but then I think every once in a while the Hollywood is like, let's go dark and gritty with this. Yeah, so a lot of people complain about how dark and gritty it is, but it's like it was the style at the time.
And I think of all the things to complain about, don't die on that hill. There's other things to tear apart first.
Yeah.
Having thick New York accents for the Mario brothers feels a bit odd.
But also,
out of the gate.
I'll once again say you weren't alive at the time, and
Nintendo
didn't have a handle at the time on Mario. Like
I guess there weren't Mario cutscenes, hey? Because when did the N64 come out?
Well,
late 90s?
Yeah, so the N64 came out in 96, I believe, in America, and the representation of Mario in that is, I think, the iconic. That's like the first instance where everybody's like, okay, yeah, this is who Mario is.
Right, because I'm literally playing Mario on the N64 now.
Yeah, it's good.
That to me is like, I've played the 2D version as well, but I guess I didn't realize this film is sort of located in an interesting spot on the timeline of Mario.
Yeah, it's like post Super Mario World where they had Dinosaur Island.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's dinosaurs in it. And also like there was cartoons, comic books, cereal, there's all kinds of Mario crap. But the cartoons were kind of similar to this in that Mario was like a weird Brooklynite.
Right.
It was like kind of gruff and gritty. Like they had a TV show called the Super Mario Brothers Super Show with a wrestler, Lou Albano, who played Mario. And he was, it's just him and this other guy who played Luigi. And they were just real kind of greasy Brooklyn, New Yorkers.
Yeah, yeah.
But not as like Italian as, Super Mario from the video game where he's like, wah, 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 because that's what Italians do. They just jump around and go, wah, wah. So.
And they're really good with wrenches.
Yeah. Like they actually plumbed on the TV show. They were plumbing.
Oh, really?
They were plumbing a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, the Mario Brothers movie, I mean, I could talk about Mario lore for forever. I think I could actually probably just like do a TED talk on it.
A lecture.
Like an improvised lecture. I probably could just talk about Mario. But
good for you. Good for you.
So this movie was this movie was a colossal bomb.
Mm-hmm.
In that it like they spent a lot of money on it, like $50 million, and they only made $30 million worldwide. So it wasn't even just the North American gross. That's all the money that they made. So,
and that's like that 50 million doesn't count for like all the advertising they would have done.
No.
And all the toys and shit they would have made.
Yeah, exactly.
To try to like, build ancillary sales and stuff. I'm sure it was a real shit fest for the shareholders or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Nintendo itself thought that the movie was fine. They didn't really care. They weren't bummed about it, but they were just like, it wasn't a good movie. It was trying too hard to just kind of take the video game and make it real life, like make it realistic. And instead of, they didn't try. But yeah, basically Shigeru Miyamoto, the guy who made Mario, was like, they should have just tried to make a good movie instead of just trying to make a realistic representation of a nonsensical storyline that we just kind of like threw a bunch of crap into a blender and just see what it just kind of seemed like they were improvising the games. And then the movie people took it too seriously.
There is like a weird insanity to like when the original IP you're basing your film off of is also just a shit show of random ideas glued together onto this like pixelated Italian man's face. And you're like, we have to be super precious of this IP, but it's like, no, Mario makes no sense.
Yeah.
Purely, we needed a guy who could jump on ledges. And then we put a mustache on his face and named him Mario, gave him overalls. And he's also a plumber, and we named him after our landlord. All of that makes absolutely no sense. And then to make a film and be like, we gotta be, protective of this IP and really sort of pay respect
We
to
have
it
to honor it, yeah.
is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it is dumb. Yeah, because Mario's whole thing is like the reason the Mario games are so good is because of the design of the levels and like the gameplay. It's not because it's an Italian guy who's has to eat mushrooms and all that stuff. Like all of that
No,
is
that's
it could literally
irrelevant.
be anything else, and it would be just as good of a game. So so just getting too caught up in trying to make the story make some sort of sense in a realistic fashion was a fool's errand.
Yes.
And so it was the only Nintendo game that was made into a movie until they made a Pokemon movie in 2019 called Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Which is based on like a not super well-known 3DS game where Detective Pikachu has a Danny DeVito-esque accent.
Yeah.
But then they made him Ryan Reynolds because I guess kids like that guy.
Yeah.
But they are making a Mario cartoon with the people who made Minions. Illumination, I guess, is making a Mario cartoon that comes out next year, and it's going to be made by Minions, so hopefully it doesn't suck.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just said it's going to be made by Minions, as if they work there, which maybe they do.
Yeah.
So anyway, the producer of the movie is a guy named Roland Joffe, who I guess is was kind of a big deal. He convinced the Nintendo of America president, who was the then son-in-law of the Japanese president. He convinced the Nintendo of America president to like let them make a movie. He went to Japan, pitched it to the Japan president Hashiro Yamauchi, and he was like, sure, whatever. Like he kind of didn't care about movie stuff. He was just kind of like a craven businessman. And then he just so happened to have hired some of like the best game designers and like kind of revolutionized the game industry. But like Nintendo was a toy company, and he was just like a guy who just was like, he didn't understand video games.
I love that.
Yeah.
The modern success story.
Yeah. So
just like delegating perfectly, but having no idea what you're actually making, and then having it be a home run.
Supposedly, just from what I read in the past, he loved playing Go.
Oh yes,
but he did not understand video games or the toys or anything. He just knew how to run a business with like an iron fist, and just he did a good job just making Nintendo like the thing it is. The thing it was then, but now it's probably for the best that they've kind of like loosened all that stuff off because they have so much more competition now. They were the only game in town for like 10 years.
Literally.
Oh yeah, so yeah, Nintendo, they did think that Mario was a strong enough brand that they were like, yeah, make a movie, see what happens. Like they didn't really care too much, and they didn't really want to have any creative control over the project. And so the movie went through like almost 8 screenwriters throughout the process. One of them was the guy who wrote Rain Man, Barry Morrow. Yeah. I guess according to what I read on Wikipedia, I don't know the article that they were referencing, but they did call it the movie Drain Man because he wrote it as an existential road trip, is what it says.
Well, it's a road. Yeah, he wrote the first draft was a road trip movie. Yeah, and it was almost identical to Rain Man, which is a really famous road trip movie.
Yeah, it's he was just like, well, I mean, it's just like when the guys who wrote Toy Story wrote Garfield, and you watch the movie, and it's like, oh, beat for beat, this is the exact same movie. Like Odie is Buzz Lightyear, Mario, or Woody is Garfield. Right. It's just when people have a big success, they're like, if it ain't broken, let's
you know what's
redo the movie.
Funny about that though? It's like Mario could have been two things: this like dark, gritty, dystopian children's film, or a road trip movie, and it would be in the same vein as like Thelma and Louise, that movie about Hunter S. Thompson in Las Vegas, or The Rain Man. You know what I mean? It's funny that you can just see the trends of the era. Yeah. And then this movie's kind of like, it could have been one or the other. Yeah. But there would have been dinosaurs in both.
Exactly.
Because dinosploitation is running rampant in the early 90s. It was
huge at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of dinosploitation, the Yoshi puppet cost $500,000 to make. It was very elaborate.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Did Stan Winston make it?
I don't think so. I didn't see his name in any of the credits, but he may have.
Well, he made the animatronic T-Rex that was like full size for Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So he's like, that's his specialty.
Yeah, I didn't see his name, but supposedly they had this Mario Brothers movie revolutionized how special effects were done, even if they weren't necessarily like super great. Just some of the systems that they kind of implemented were used after that. Oh yeah, the Jurassic Park people also like came to visit the set because they had like, let's see this dinosaur puppet, and they were really impressed, and they were going to try and get them to like work on the next Jurassic Park movie. I don't know that
really
materialized. Yeah, they were just like, wow, this dinosaur work is really good. We got to like.
What a joke!
What do you mean? The Yoshi puppet was cool.
I wasn't impressed. You know what? I was looking for Yoshi. I wanted Yoshi, like literal Yoshi, to be there, and he wasn't.
He didn't make the sound, you know.
No, and the eggs weren't like neon colored,
and just trailing behind him.
Yeah. And Mario didn't ride him like a horse, which you can do in some of the newer games. So they did. Yeah, I'm just a little upset.
They did cut out the scene where Mario rides him and punches him in the back of the head to get him to eat stuff.
I wish there was a scene in the movie where like they're having a car chase and then they hit a mushroom and it's like, you know, it's like NOS or whatever, and it goes in the engine and flames come out the exhaust pipe and they speed up, but only for about 5 seconds. That would have been. Yeah. But this is pre Mario Kart. So how were they to know? How are they to know?
I think actually Mario Kart came out the year before this.
Oh, really?
Like the Super Mario Kart game, yeah.
Oh shit. Well, maybe that's why there are so many car chases.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Actually, I guess maybe a similarity just to get that cooking. Both films depict really, really uncomfortable carpooling.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, because they're always being chased, and they're in like cars they don't know how to drive, that don't have brakes. And then in Last Black Man in San Francisco, the two main characters ride one skateboard together, which I have some fun facts about later.
Yeah, I was thinking about that skateboarding stuff because there's a lot of skateboarding in the movie. Some of the skateboarding shots are like done really well, but also don't really add a whole lot besides, wow, look at these skateboarding shots.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but I live for that shit.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, you do. You love skitching.
Yeah, skitching for days.
Yeah, there's scenes in both movies where characters bail also in on like extreme transportation modes.
Right.
Extreme X-Stream. Because in Mario Brothers, they have like these like rocket boots that they wear. Mm-hmm. That they're like kind of bail on. I guess they also crash a car, I think, at one point.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
Just anytime there's a vehicle involved in both films, it's uncomfortable and doesn't end well.
And full of gnar.
Yeah, full of gnar. Yeah. So gnar.
Yeah. So gnarly. Yeah.
Two of the screenwriters, after the Rain Man guy, they were like, we were going to try and make it more for kids and make it more of like a play on the fairy tale vibes of the video game. And just want to read this quote because you'll see. This guy says, essentially what we did was what Shrek did, satirizing fairy tale cliches, I guess. So.
Oh wow, barely.
For the husband and wife team, Harold Ramis was going to direct it.
Oh shit!
And he was a fan of the video game too, but he just decided not to do it at the time. I don't know what he was working on then. Maybe Groundhog Day.
It would have been really close to Groundhog Day.
And but then I guess supposedly he was happy that he did not make this movie.
I wonder why. He was happy about that.
Yeah, who knows? Shit. Yeah, so other people who were supposed to work on the movie was Danny DeVito as Mario.
Holy shit.
Or Dustin Hoffman as Mario.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Michael Keaton was supposed to be King Koopa, and then also they considered Arnold Schwarzenegger, which makes sense, but would have been a bad choice. This was like also like right after Terminator 2.
Right. He's too expensive, and he can't be like a small bad guy. Like every film he's in is a vehicle for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, but also the movie would have done better, though, I think.
Oh, much better. Yeah. Tom
Hanks was considered for Luigi.
Really?
Yeah.
But I I would pay serious money to see that.
But apparently he had a bad, I can't remember what movie he made. This was like the year before Forrest Gump and his like string of like Oscar success. But like the year before he had a box office bomb. It might have been something like Joe versus a volcano or something. I don't know the timeline, but.
Right. He made, it's funny. I've been going through all the 80s movies that he's in, and they're all really good. And then the early 90s, he made some real shitty movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Shit ebbs and flows, man. Ebbs and flows.
Also, the character of Toad, which is played by a musician named Mojo Nixon, who I have heard the name of, but I don't think I've heard the music. We're going to cast Tom Waits as Toad at one point, but he was unavailable, but was interested.
Wow. I would, again, pay serious money to see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple more things. The movie was a hellish movie to make. Dennis Hopper hated working on it. He also didn't really know what was happening. And so he was also hard to work with. So he was making the director's life hard, and they were making his life hard. John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins would just get drunk every day.
Oh, good for them. That's great.
Yeah, they just get hammered in between takes as well. And Bob Hoskins has famously got on the record saying this was the worst job he's ever done and his biggest disappointment.
I love that.
So, yeah. There is a webcomic sequel, supposedly.
Right. Okay.
So this movie does have a accompanying...
a phantasmagorical companion novel.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a phantasmagorical companion novel to this. And phantasmagorical toilets, if you think about it, because they do go. There are plumbers, and they are in like a weird phantasmagorical land. So
yes. Actually, I'm just thinking about this now. Speaking of phantasmagorical toilets. Both films have main characters who are sort of economically stratified and are in a lower position in society and can't get out of it. And big gentrification is pushing them out.
Yeah, right? That's right.
Because the Mario brothers keep losing out to Scapelli, the major corporation that's gentrifying New York. And the two main characters in Last Black Man in San Francisco, they're both low income, and they're trying to get this house back. But all the financial ways that they try to get it back, they're just pushed out by that realtor and by the bank.
Yeah,
and all that stuff. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, there were very similar movies in that, like, it's a kind of about gentrification in some ways in both films.
Yeah,
or just like corporate greed, kind of ruining a city, a coastal city. Mm-hmm. And San Francisco and New York are very similar cities in a lot of ways.
They have the same problems.
Yeah,
I think the other thing is it's about characters trying to reclaim their home.
Yeah,
so you have Daisy trying to reclaim her home. But also the Mario brothers, I think, are trying to get more comfortable in New York, and they are after their adventure. And then the two characters in Last Black Man in San Francisco are trying to get this house back.
Yeah.
But also get San Francisco back, in a way. Like, it's more about San Francisco changing than it is about the house.
Mm-hmm. One more little fact about the Mario Brothers movie.
Yep.
There is a bunch of people on the internet, as there always is, who love this movie for some reason. And so there are people who are working on like a fan restoration of like a 4K release of this movie, because I don't think that there's any plans for that to like come out on 4K Blu-ray or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So fans are like restoring the film for 4K for some reason.
It's amazing what people will do.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing.
Yeah, I will say it's amazing. The word amazing is an accurate word to use for people who are restoring the Super Mario Brothers movie.
You know what I say, and I always say this, not all heroes wear capes.
It's true, yeah.
But all heroes are plumbers and have hats and overalls.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And thick New York accents.
Also, here's like a kind of similarity between the two movies. At the end of Last Black Man in San Francisco, Mont puts on a play.
Yep.
And in Super Mario Brothers, there's no play in the movie. There's a little storybook section off the top talking about dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of like a
story within a story.
Story within a story, yeah. But then also in Super Mario 3, the video game, it opens the game opens the title screen with a curtain. So it kind of like presents this idea that you're watching like a play, and there's like elements of the game where there's like a wall that you can go behind, almost like a set, and there's like you can see like nails in some of the things. It's like being held up by like someone who had constructed it. So there's like this kind of element of whatever. I'm talking about Super Mario Brothers 3, not the movie, of course, but it's
all the same family, man.
Yeah, we'll
it's
call
all
it the same
IP.
Thing. Yeah.
That might be the best link you've ever done.
Thank you.
It was so multi-layered, Mike. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and textured. You really painted a picture with your words.
Well, I'm an artist.
Yes, you are. Yes. Yeah, you are. Absolutely. All right. The Last Black Man in San Francisco is a 2019 drama film. It had its premiere at Sundance in 2019, and then A24 released it 3 months later. This is a cool movie. What's nice about this film, it's basically the antithesis of how Super Mario Brothers was made. This was absolutely a grassroots film.
Right.
So it's based in part on Jimmy Fails' life, who plays Jimmy Fails in the film.
Yeah, which I learned after I saw the film and was like, that's wild.
I know. It's nuts. And I was also like, man, as a screenwriter, why would you make this guy's last name Fails?
Yeah,
it's like hard to say. It. But then it's like, it's actually him. It's about his life. So it makes a lot of sense. And he's playing himself.
And also, he fails.
Yeah, he literally does fail. But he learns something along the way,
And we all do, though. I think we all do.
Yes. So it's directed by Joe Talbot. So Jimmy Fails and Joe Talbot are lifelong friends. They were friends as kids, and even as early as their teenage years, they were talking about making this film. The film was written by Joe Talbot and Rob Richert or Reichert. Deep German name, I assume. But the story's by Jimmy Fails and Joe Talbot. Yeah, they were growing up together. They wanted to make this film. San Francisco has no film industry because 3 hours to the south is Hollywood.
Yes.
And also it's Silicon Valley, and there's just other industries there. So there's no real infrastructure for making films. So they had no way to know how to make the film. They had no experience. There were no people there they could really talk to. So that kind of put a hold on the project until they were both like much, much older. But sort of the initial inspiration was Joe Talbot emailed Barry Jenkins out of the blue, and then Barry Jenkins replied and gave him sort of a list of instructions on how to best finance the film. And then that led them to doing the Kickstarter. Well, they made a trailer for the film, and that was self-financed. And then they made a Kickstarter to try to make a short film called American Paradise, and they asked for, I think it was $25,000, and then they made $75,000 on the Kickstarter. And there was this huge, like, Last Black Man in San Francisco campaign on the internet, and Jimmy Fails kind of became the face of San Francisco during that time, because this is also like, it's the city's famously gentrifying, and a lot of the people who have grown up in San Francisco are dealing with this. So I feel like the film really touches, or is like on the pulse of that sort of movement.
Yes.
So they made this short. They took it to Sundance in 2017, and then there they met Christine Oh, who's one of the like main producers at Plan B Entertainment, Brad Pitt's production company.
That's right.
And then they met two other producers, and basically they had a meeting to be like, will Plan B make our film or not? And sure, funny enough, it was on the set of Ad Astra. So they met the whole Plan B team on the set of Ad Astra, and they had never been on a set before. And apparently they were like shitting their pants because it was like a giant special effects day, and Brad Pitt was hanging like 200 feet in the air by wires in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
And there's like a giant spaceship and stuff. They were really blown away, and they thought they were going to get turned down, but the two producers said, we would love to make this film. Let's go into production. And so they started, Plan B financed the film and made it. And then they got a distribution deal with A24. So like, it's cool because Plan B is like a great company. They make a lot of really cool shit. And they kind of hit like, the situation is ideal. They got like a really good indie film production company, Plan B, and then an indie distributor, A24.
Oh, yeah.
And that like, I feel like that alone is such a monumental achievement and really speaks to how cool the concept was. And I haven't seen American Paradise yet, but I bet it's really fucking cool because that's the short that got them to be able to make the feature.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that it's like a grassroots sort of story to making this film, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it kind of goes to show anything can happen if you believe.
Dreams do come true. And if you spend your whole life trying to make a thing, sometimes it happens.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Yeah, and sometimes Brad Pitt makes it happen.
Exactly. It's really cool that they just stuck with it for so long, because it ended up being like a 20 or 25 year journey for them.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. There's some fun stuff. So there's some fun stuff and then some not so fun stuff. So we'll talk about the Kofi character. Kofi's character is kind of pivotal to the entire narrative, and they wanted it to be played by somebody who's a local to San Francisco and is very much part of the San Francisco community. Mm-hmm. And then they met Jamal Trulove, who ends up playing Kofi. But Jamal Trulove's story is really fucked up. So in 2007, when he was a lot younger, he was wrongfully convicted of murder. And then in 2015, he was acquitted after a retrial. And then the city of San Francisco paid him a settlement of $13.1 million because he was wrongfully convicted, and he was framed by the San Francisco police.
Oh, wow.
So he has a really sort of intense story and connection to the city of San Francisco, and it's quite complicated. And that's why they wanted him to play Kofi, because that character sort of represents so much. Mm-hmm. And is sort of a pivotal character within the narrative of the film. But that's just sort of like, that's fucking crazy.
That's pretty wild.
His story is like absolutely insane and very, very tragic. Anyways, so that's really interesting. I think that's like a really wild sort of part of the film that probably not a lot of people know. The film was plagued by construction. So if you know San Francisco really well, the film's geography makes absolutely no sense. Like how they get places and where they go makes no fucking sense. Similar to Bullet. Bullet like is famously inaccurate on like where you would drive and how you get to places and how long it takes.
Yeah.
And this film is similar. Like this film is very much sort of like in terms of the geography and how they get places, it's very inaccurate and more like a fantasy film.
Yeah.
So their depiction of San Francisco is much more poetic than literal, which is kind of cool. The other thing is, so the little snippet about the skateboard thing. So in the script, like, oh shit, forget his name. Crapper. One second. Joe Talbot knows nothing about skateboarding, but then in the script they wrote this in, and they wanted to have like the two, Montgomery Allen and Jimmy Fails, the two characters on the skateboard together, and then they didn't really know how to do it. They didn't know anything about skating. And they phoned up some guy at Thrasher, like the editor or whatever. And Thrasher is famously, their head office is in San Francisco, famous skateboarding magazine. Mm-hmm. They like, I forget the guy's name, but the head editor, and they're like, have you ever seen two grown men on a skateboard? And he was like, I don't know. And then he started asking around his office, and basically everyone said like, no, not really. That's not really possible. And then they talked to this guy who makes custom boards, and he made a slightly wider board. And then they spent like a long time, the two actors, trying to figure out how to ride the board together. And that's how they came up with the Jimmy Fails in front, and then Montgomery Allen in the back with his hands on his shoulders. And they also didn't know each other before the film. So this really cemented their relationship and made them sort of become really good friends in real life. But that's it. There was like a whole sort of hurdle they had to leap in order to just figure out how they could commute on one skateboard. And you also see some Thrasher merch in the movie, which is fun.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, and Thrasher was very much involved in the pre-production of the film, just trying to help these guys out, which is really cool. I love that. And it's a great film. Yeah. That's basically all I have on the film. It's cool. I love it. I was blown away. I didn't know what it was about, and I just turned it on, and it immediately, like the opening frame, you're just blown away.
Yeah, the camera work is really like impressive, and
the music,
the lighting is so nice.
Performances.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous film, and I love the characters. They're really interesting, and it's a unique art house film. You know,
art house film in that they were painting the house.
Exactly,
and the house is a work of art in some ways to the people of the city.
Huh. That's great. Nice work, Mike.
Thank you. I mean, I got to point out one thing.
Oh, what?
There's a part in it where I think one of the people in the gang call Jimmy, like, they say he dresses like a white guy,
Right.
or maybe it's his dad. Somebody says that to him, but he basically wears red the entire time.
Yeah.
And Mont wears a backwards baseball hat for like a chunk of the movie too.
Yeah.
And those are the same outfits that the Mario Brothers wear.
Oh my God, you're right. Well, let me piggyback on top of that. Both films are helmed by duos.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like there's two main characters in both films, and they're basically in every scene together.
Well, they're like brothers too.
Yeah,
the Mario Brothers are called brothers, but I read an interview with John Leguizamo where he talked about how Bob Hoskins is a British guy. He is Hispanic, and they were both playing supposedly Italian people. So it's like because John Leguizamo is clearly not Italian. But he's just kind of doing the Hollywood thing of just like Italians and Hispanic people being interchangeable. Like Scarface is an example he brought up. So he's just like the Mario Brothers. It's not super clear what their relationship is, like if they're actually brothers or if they're just two guys who live together. I mean, their names are Mario and Luigi, so I think what he says is kind of BS because they're clearly Italian. They're clearly supposed to be Italian brothers, but anyway, the point being that in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, like they're not brothers, but they kind of are, and they both at the beginning share a small apartment in a big metropolis.
That's right.
Not unlike the Mario Brothers, and they are titular both films.
Oh my God! Look at you go! Look at you go! That's great. Both films have like external material related to the film, because there's like a movie trailer from 2017 and then the short film and then the movie Last Black Man in San Francisco. And then Mario has the whole Nintendo IP.
That's right.
Both films kind of have like external things.
Well, they're adaptations of other works, really.
That's a way better way of putting it. Yeah, that's much better. Damn, Mike. Damn, you're bringing your A game today.
Thank you. Last Black Man in San Francisco is an adaptation of Jimmy Fails' life. Just like the Mario Brothers movie is an adaptation of Super Mario's life.
Or, in a way, an adaptation of that landlord's life, who's probably pretty good with a sea wrench.
Yes, exactly.
Hey? Both films have heavy depictions of renovations.
Yes.
Yeah, they kind of feel like an HGTV movie.
A lot of scaffolding.
A lot of construction, a lot of fixing up old things. And sort of related to that, both films have a doomed romance, okay? Jimmy Fails' romance is with this house that he's trying to reclaim.
Sure. The past.
And it's doomed. The past, exactly. And it's doomed. And then Luigi and Daisy, they're doomed.
Yeah.
They're horny for each other, but it ain't gonna happen. Also, there's a really fun cameo that I forgot to talk about with Daewon Song. He plays Ricky, like the boyfriend of Wanda Fails, the aunt.
Yes.
And he's a famous pro skater, and he's like a really fucking cool dude. And I forgot he's in it. And he's riding Jimmy Fails' board, and it's fun. And he's like kind of shitty at it, but in real life, he's like the craziest motherfucker you ever see. He's amazing.
Yeah, he just did some ollies.
Yeah, but in real life, like he's nuts, and he like does a lot of weird stuff. Like one of his trucks on his board is totally loose and has no rubber washer.
Yeah.
He's got a really odd style, but he's amazing. He's such a technical skater, which is cool. And I forgot he's in the movie, and then he's driving the truck with all the shit in it to the house, which is fun. Yeah, so that's like if you're into like skating, that's like definitely a really cool little Easter egg.
I'm kind of into skating.
You should look him up on like after. He's like really he's fucking cool.
I will. Both movies both movies are about characters kind of battling against real estate. We've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but like Koopa is basically Trump, and he's kind of like a bad guy. The bad guy in both movies is a real estate agent, essentially. I mean, the bad guy in The Last Black Man from San Francisco is a lot of things. It's society, it's gentrification, it's the rich, it's the tech industry, it's all of these things. But yeah, it's like represented by that one slimy real estate guy. And I'd say Koopa is very similar to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's trying to put up some friggin' condos in Dinosaur Land or Mushroom Kingdom or whatever they call it in this movie.
Well, let me jump onto that. So not only is there sort of this like the ever growing consumerist like real estate monolithic machine that just consumes the world and its resources, but in both films there's a heavy sort of depiction or reference to the poisoned environment. So you see the water and it's like all steamy and gross and rotting and poisonous in the opening section of Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Right.
And then there's a scene where Koopa is complaining about how he's the king of this like little city, but then he's surrounded by desert.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, really, I think both films are sort of a cautionary tale about climate change.
Yeah, there's also like toxins kind of in the air in the Last Black Man from San Francisco. Like they'll get out of a bus
and the city's poisoned.
Like, there's just so much like
and then
smoke.
what's it called in what's the shit in Dino Land? It's like slime.
They say trust the fungus.
Fungus, yeah.
So it's like there's like all of this phlegm and fungus everywhere. Which they later learn is the king.
What's up with that? I love how short his scene is. He just like gets back. He's just sitting there and he's like, all right. But he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't explain himself. You don't know anything about him. He's just the king. Very funny.
There's like in both movies, there's a connection between the past and the present. So in The Last Black Man from San Francisco, the house is kind of like a connection to the past. It's like supposedly built 100 years ago. And it kind of represents like the time when the first black man came to San Francisco. Similarly, in Super Mario Brothers, dinosaurs are, I don't know if you know this, from the past. So I don't know. That's one.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I think, what's funny though, like watching both of these films, I was like, man, from a thematic standpoint, these are super resonant. They sort of are on the same level, you know what I mean? In terms of what they're exploring. One's just a lot more sort of artful and coherent than the other, but it's funny that like such a shitty sort of corporate gaining film, because the two films are like antithetical in that one's like purely just like corporate money making bullshit, and the other one is like this grassroots local indie thing trying to tell a very specific story in a specific place. But then when it comes down to the themes that they're both exploring, they're really similar.
Oh yeah.
And it's about reclamation, it's about identity, it's about your geography and how it's changing and you aren't.
Yeah, that's true.
What I mean? And it's just really funny because the intentionality between the two films are totally different.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that they were trying to say something about like 90s New York.
No, they weren't.
But like around that time, as I understand it, New York started to go into this kind of mode that it's now kind of trapped in, where you can't really live in Manhattan anymore, unless you're just so wealthy. Yeah, and even the other boroughs, it's still like prohibitively expensive for most people to like live comfortably.
Yes. Yeah, and like 70s New York versus like when it started to change and gentrify and into what it is now is like a thing. It definitely felt like in the screenplay, it was an arbitrary villain, like the Scapelli contracting company or whatever that just felt so arbitrary. It was just like, oh, the Mario brothers just need something to butt their head against.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's the Scapellis. Another similarity is in both films, there's like you get seated in a chair and then you're transformed.
That's right, yeah.
So, Montgomery Allen puts on the play and everyone sits down and watches it.
Wow.
And definitely Jimmy Fails changes during the time of that play. Actually, they both do. And they have this like huge conflict. And then in Super Mario Bros., people sit down and they can get evolved or devolved.
That's right, yeah.
And I would say in a way, both films have a character getting evolved after sitting down in a chair and having some lights turn on.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great work.
Can I be honest with you? That was a spitball. I just started talking.
Oh, wow.
And that really fell into place, didn't it?
It truly did. It seemed like it was extremely well thought out, but I guess it was the opposite. My paper's blank. I just started talking. There's nothing there. I'm really proud of myself for that one. Oh, both movies have prisons featured in them. in that the
Oh.
Mario Brothers movie, like there's prison people like trapped in cages. And
Yeah.
I believe at one point Toad is in a cage.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
That's just kind of out in the open too.
Hmm.
And then the Last Black Man in San Francisco, there's nobody goes to a prison in the movie, but you know that Alcatraz is tucked away somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you. That's a deep cut. I didn't even think about Alcatraz.
Yeah, it's just like always present. Kind of just in the background, even if they don't really show it in the movie. And I'm sure actually there's a couple of shots where you see it, but I don't remember them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know it's tucked away somewhere in that movie.
I'm sure, because there's so many great shots where like the ocean is present or the bay. And I'm sure, Alcatraz is there. They never talk about Alcatraz, which is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the locals just don't care about Alcatraz.
Well, because it's just a tourist attraction now.
Yeah. Yeah. How crazy is it that like you could be living like in the 60s and there's just like a prison in the bay on the island?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? You're like raising your family and like living your life, and then you're just like, oh yeah, there's that like huge high security prison on that island.
Like Al Capone was there.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
And
Clint Eastwood famously served time.
Yeah, he served time, but he did escape. He escaped.
He did, yeah. He swam.
Yeah.
And it was never found.
I went to Alcatraz last year, right before the pandemic. I was there.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy... I probably actually said this on this podcast, actually, if I'm remembering correctly. I think I already talked about this, but you can buy Escape from Alcatraz on 480p DVD, not Blu-ray, not 4K or whatever, for like $30 American in the gift shop.
Worth it.
Yeah. Like they sell a bunch of DVDs for like just so expensive.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's so stupid. I love it though. I love the ballsy move when it's like people just don't know what they're buying and they're in vacation mode, so they're letting their money on fire and they're like, yeah, let's buy this DVD of this Clint Eastwood movie that is really easy to watch in other ways.
Yeah. But
it's about the story, Mike. It's about the fact that they bought it, on the island, and that they spent so much money on it.
I know.
You're proud of that purchase.
Exactly.
It's like buying a bag by Gucci. Same thing. Or buying a Jaguar. You buy a DVD from the Alcatraz gift shop.
It is strange that you can just get so much merch at a prison.
Yeah.
You walk around, they tell you about all the people who escaped, all the people who died. You see all the crappy little toilets that they have to use every single day in these tiny little cells, and then you're like, I have to buy a mug to remember this.
Yeah. Did you buy any merch when you went?
Of course I didn't.
Oh, well, you're no fun.
I know. I did eat a snack on the ferry there, though.
Oh, what'd you have?
I think it was a cookie.
Good for you. I don't know why. I just pictured you eating like a vegan corn dog on the boat.
That sounds good. I did.
San Francisco style.
I did see some Canada geese, like a bunch of Canada geese, like hang out at Alcatraz.
Nice.
So some of the Canada geese, I was like, have I seen you before? Have I seen you in my city? Are you a local?
Yeah, I bet.
You know, when you run into somebody, you know, in a different city who's from your city. Like you run into a friend or just like a casual acquaintance and you're like, what? You're here too? And you just happen to run into him. It's like, that was me with those Canada geese.
That's awesome. And they probably thought to themselves, who's this fucking guy and why is he looking at us so weird?
Hong Kong.
What a creep. Yeah. This guy's a bird perv.
A couple of bird pervs.
Bird perv. Bird perv. Bird pervert.
Thank you.
That's your theme song. Yeah, you're welcome.
Great. So that's the similarities. We discovered that they're the same movie once again. Classic.
Yeah, I would honestly, like, as a double feature, this is a wild fucking ride. I would recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Should our podcast be called Double Feature?
I actually, when I was coming up with the idea for this and trying to come up with a name,
it was taken.
That one had been taken many, many times over. Yeah. Like we recorded a couple episodes and we didn't know what to call it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Remember this? And then
I do, yes.
Yeah, so I was just kind of trying to come up with names, and double feature obviously is a obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been done a million times over, so
too
bad.
I figured it is cliche.
Yeah, it's kind of a cliche, so I think we settled on the best one from Justin to Kane. A thing you have to really explain, but If you know, you know.
Yeah. I explain it to people and they're still like, what?
Yeah.
It's fun. Anyways, this was our episode. I think, you know what? Like, this is a good one. It's a good double feature. It's a wild ride. It's like, there's a huge gap between the two films just in terms of viewing experience, which is a lot of fun to sort of let wash over you as a double feature.
That's right, yeah. I have a soft spot for the Mario Brothers movie, even though it sucks. Just because of, nostalgia as always.
Because of how old you are?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't because of how young I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you had a birthday last week, so you're not getting any younger.
I'm in my mid-20s now.
You are aging faster and faster every year.
Wow, you really know how to scare the shit out of somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Put that, that existential dread right back in there.
Hey, this podcast is a bit of an existential road trip, not unlike the original draft of the Super Mario Brothers movie and Rain Man.
Yeah, but ours is called Grain Man because we live in the prairies and all we do is grow grain.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should bid everyone farewell.
Say the line.
This feels over.
That's good, yes. Gotta have our catchphrases. Also, one more video game related note. Did you see the news? Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie?
It's coming out?
Idris Elba playing Knuckles.
What?
Yeah.
So miracles do happen, Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
I wrote them so many letters saying, when is the sequel coming out? And all they would do is ghost me.
Yeah. Well, you also would write them, when is the sequel coming out? ... And is Sonic nude in it?
Yeah. And then I just poorly drawn nude portraiture of Sonic and me making out. And they were like, you need to stop saying, this is a children's film you're talking about. This is so deeply inappropriate.
P.S. I want some feet stuff too. Signed Bob.
I obviously used a fake name. I put down Mike Robertson.
Oh, no.
And your mailing address.
That's why I keep getting cease and desist orders from whatever company makes Sonic the
Warner
Hedgehog.
Brothers is just, or Sega's like, hey, pervert, stop sending us perverted mail. And you're like, what? I'm not the pervert. Bob's the pervert.
We should go to see the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie and then do an episode about it and then do another deep dive into the weird perverted world of online Sonic the Hedgehog fans.
Yeah, we should. I think that'd be fun. What would that corner be called?
I don't know, Pervy Sonic Corner or
Perv Hedge Corner.
Or just something. The Hedge Hog. Like hog. Hedges Hog.
Does
corner?
Sonic the Hedge have a hog?
Yeah.
Question mark is the subject line of every email I send to Sega.
Yeah.
And they're like, please stop emailing us.
And then you just respond, no. No deal, Sega.
Screw you guys. It's your fault for making such a sexy character.
Yeah. Okay, well, on Bob being a hedge perv.
That's I'm really painting myself into a corner here. Thanks for listening, everyone. Apologies for my perversions. And Mike's not, guiltless.
No one is innocent these days.
No. By proxy, you're a pervert.
Oh,
anyways, okay. Yes. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Hope you had a good time. Watch these movies. They're fun. As a double feature. And as always, now I'm saying what Mike says. As always, you can catch us on, let me see if I can even say this.
Sure.
Instagram from Justin to the number 2, Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Or on
Twitter.
Letterboxd. Oh, Twitter, which is also from Justin to the number 2, Kane. Letterboxd from Justin to Kane with the TO?
No, they all have the number.
Yeah. So Letterboxd or Facebook, I guess.
Yes, Facebook, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario, take one step and then again. Let's do the Mario all together now. You got it. It's the Mario. Do the the Mario. Swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario. Take one step and then again. Let's do the Mario all together now.